If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world.
And I wanted to tackle this topic because it's a topic that I touch on every now and then. I think it's important that we have some information. I also know that it's important that we're not in denial about its existence and its prevalence on the continent. However, I do think it's one of those topics that is shrouded in fabrication. I think it's greatly, massively overhyped in terms of its prevalence and its impact. Now, why do I say this? Some of you are already like, oh, what are you talking about? Why do I say this? I think it's being exaggerated, and I do think it's a problem, and I do think it needs to be tackled, and this documentary deals with it quite well. However, I think that when it comes to the tampering of one's skin, okay, in either direction, okay, i.e. pale women wanting to be darker or dark women wanting to be lighter, this seems to be a universal trend, okay? It's a universal trend. And it's actually most prevalent in Asia, okay? And that's quantifiable if you look at the data. The industry is huge in Asia. It's a multi-billion-pound industry in Asia. It's massive in Asia, okay? I actually think it's undershot in certain areas. So if you look at the studies, they'll say the prevalence is around 50 to 60% in Asia. I think it's higher. I've lived in the Middle East, and I can tell you it's endemic, and pretty much every single woman does it. So maybe that 50% is representative of a female, of just, you know, basically the entire population. And I'd imagine not a lot of men can be bothered to do it, but all the women do it. And if you look in South Asia, the problem is just as prevalent. If you look in the Middle East, it's just as prevalent. So across Asia, you have this skin lightening thing, and they buy it literally off the shelf when it comes to Asia. It's legal. They have probably a more controlled, they have more control of the industry because it runs through supermarkets. You know, you literally just buy it off the shelf. Fair and Lovely skin cream. People just buy it off the shelf, and it's an industry that's dominated by Olay, the same company that dominates the skincare industry in the UK, but for different reasons. They don't sell skin lightening cream over here because it's both chemically and politically unacceptable, but they do it in Asia, and they do it with impunity. That being said, in Africa, it's more extreme in terms of the processes and the kind of products that they'll use to lighten the skin, but it's not as prevalent. And that's the one thing. It's nowhere near an endemic on the African continent. It's nowhere near endemic. And there have been a couple of studies done. One that's referenced a lot actually is the World Health Organization, who claims the rate is 25 to 80%, which is just ludicrous. It's not 80% anywhere. They claim that the rate is 77% in Nigeria, which is just stupid. That's to say 3 in 4 Nigerian women bleach their skin. That's just so dumb. That's so unbelievably dumb and untrue. It's unbelievable. It's nowhere near that rate. Now, do people do it? Yeah, but everybody knows their cousin or their auntie or whatever it is that uses skin bleaching products because she's purple, and everyone knows, you know, everyone, all the aunties and the cousins and whatever, they all talk about the purple auntie and her purple skin. All right, it's nowhere near that prevalent, not even close to being that prevalent. And this is the problem. There's a lot of misinformation when it comes to the African continent. People just think they can just speak anything. It's like, it's not true. This is nowhere near the rate. But there you go. This is what we find ourselves up against, because one of the things that they are really determined to make it seem like whatever happens, Africa is the worst at it. So if they've got this whole thing of people not being happy with their skin, the thing that they'll try and portray is that, well, black people are the darkest, so they're the most ugly, so they have to have the highest rate of skin tampering. That's actually, no, the opposite is true. White people probably tamper their skin. White women probably tamper their skin more than black women. Yeah, that's almost certainly true. First of all, black people in the diaspora, I'm not talking about ones in Africa and the Caribbean. Black people in the diaspora, it's almost unheard of for them to tamper their skin, do any kind of skin lightening. Okay, it's almost unheard of. It's like literally they don't do it. The most they do is put SPF, and I still disagree with that, but that's the most they'll do, is they'll put some protection formula on their skin. I've never heard of anyone who lives in the diaspora, America or the UK or across Europe, tampering with their skin. Okay, whereas if you look at the white populations, they all have tanning solutions, they all have spray tan, and I'm not saying all, but a majority of them do tamper with their skin, okay, to make it darker, to make it thingy. And the bronzer, tanning, all of these sprays, they're all toxic. None of them are good for you, okay? If you look at the Asian community, it's endemic, okay? It's endemic in the Asian community. They all lighten their skin. And yet they always try to portray to black people that they're doing it the worst. Now, is it a problem more in the kind of the non-diaspora, or in the Caribbean and in Africa? Yes, it's more prevalent, but I'm talking about the rates. The rates are nowhere near the same. Okay, the rates are nowhere near the same. Does it still need to be dealt with? Yes, absolutely, undoubtedly, not making excuses, but we have to deal with the rates. We just don't tamper with our skin. And when I say we, I'm talking about black people as a whole. We just do not tamper with our skin as much as the other races. Okay, it's just not that prevalent. You know, a lot of, by the way, a lot of people miss the fact that there are just a lot of light-skinned people in Nigeria. Okay, a lot of women are born light-skinned. You go to certain cities, like if you go to like Akwa Ibom in Nigeria, for instance, there's loads of light-skinned people, just naturally light-skinned women. Okay, loads. If you go up north, loads and loads of naturally light-skinned women. None of them tamper with their skin. And then when you go to the more dark-skinned populations, it's just not rife. It's not prevalent that much. So I just have to make this very, very clear. Once again, not making excuses. A lot of people, when I make these statements, people hear me binary and they go, bleach is a problem. What's wrong with you? Oh, you're spreading this. It's like, no, listen to what I'm saying. I'm just saying we do it less than other races. And what you won't find is these kind of documentaries like the one I'm about to play for you. You just don't find these documentaries being done about the Asian community. For some reason, when Asians do it, it's not a problem. In South Asia and all the entire Indian community are bleaching their skin. No one's making documentaries about it. When they do it in Japan, everybody's bleaching their skin in Japan and Korea. No one's making documentaries about it. It's a massive problem. These guys are already struggling with their melanin content. It just makes them much more susceptible to, you know, melanomas and stuff like that. But they still do it, and you know, it won't be reported. And this is what I hate about the misinformation, because just like you guys are highlighting, we know that they do it much more in Asia than we do it in Africa. But unfortunately, the World Health Organization's report dominates, and it says that apparently 77% of Nigerians bleach their skin, and at its lowest rate in Mali, it's 25%. I mean, that's ludicrous. There's no way that a quarter of Malian women are bleaching their skin. That's absolutely ridiculous. Most of them are covered up. They're flipping. Islam is like, I think Mali is, I think Islam is 80% there. So where are they getting these statistics from? They're ludicrous. They're absolutely ludicrous. They will spread misinformation about Africa unless we take control of the narrative. So I guess that's a part of what I'm doing now.
Just discovered a new scientific law.
So there you go. That woman there who was just walking to the camera, and then it's jumped here, but that woman there, that kind of like purple undertone, that is normally a good indication that someone is lightening their skin. Okay, and it's I mean, we can normally spot it, to be honest with you. It's not like we're not we see it enough to know when it's occurred. Okay, and this is obviously a situation when it's got wrong. I've actually got an auntie who I love dearly, by the way. She's absolutely lovely, but we always knew from day one, and it was a massive stigma. We always knew that it's quite addictive. She was addicted to bleaching, you know. So it was just sad watching her grow up. It surprised me. She's lived to a ripe old age. She's still alive now. So it's not like, you know, it didn't affect her health in the worst way possible. but we still all knew, and it was just kind of like a stigma in the family that had this one auntie that used to bleach and everyone used to know it. But that's it. That's the one auntie that I had. And when I say auntie, I mean it in the African sense of the word auntie. So those of you who are African know what I know. So I've got dozens of aunties, by the way. Yeah, dozens. Yeah. And I only had the one who everyone knew bleached.
Now,
If I don't have these products, I'm afraid I'll become too dark, like I used to be. I still have a few products left, but I hate the thought of becoming darker.
The government introduced a ban on...
And by the way, hearing that woman speak, that's also... Colorism is real, obviously. No one who's on this channel who's maybe grown up in certain environments is going to deny that colorism is real. I heard some wild things growing up. So when I was growing up, I had a mixed relationship with my dark skin. Never had an issue with my blackness. Always loved my blackness. But and I'm going to be honest with you now, did have an issue with my dark skin because I'd hear just stuff where it's kind of like, oh, he's a good looking boy, but I hope he doesn't get any darker. But he's too dark. I heard that a lot growing up. And so I had a mixed relationship, but it was only really when I kind of like, I would say when I almost got into my late teens, when I really saw my darkness as a benefit, when I really started stepping into my dark, like, yeah, I started loving it. But I'll be honest with you, almost throughout my teenage years, I kind of just wished I was a tad bright. I wanted to kind of like be that kind of like caramel tone, kind of wished I was a bit light. I wasn't trying to be like light skinned or anything, but in my mind, I was like, I wish I was a bit lighter. You know, I could get girls a bit easier. You know what I mean? You're not like, I always, you know, you're trying to remove as many obstacles as you can to, you know, being successful. I always had the gab was easy for me. You know, the talk was easy, the confidence was there, but just that little one thing, I was like, if I was a little bit, and it took a little bit for me to get there. And obviously, you know, hit my late teens, and you know, I grew into myself, and I really felt, you know, a lot of confidence. But when you hear that growing up, it does sow a seed, you know, it does sow a seed, you know. So you have to, what she's saying there, it might sound wild to some, but I grew up hearing those things just in a different kind of circle. So it is kind of like, it can be in your communities depending where you grew up. Thank you very much. Someone who said that, Joy, who said I got a beautiful complexion. I appreciate that. In fact, one of the areas I got my biggest amount of confidence from was, I probably mentioned it before, my Jamaican mum. I had a few mums. Obviously, I got a real mum, obviously it's natural, but I had a few of my friends' mums, I'd call them mum as well. And then, you know, it was kind of like a communal thing where a lot of my, I was at some of my friends' houses so much growing up that their mums just kind of like became additional mums for me. And I had one Jamaican mum. I actually spoke to my brethren yesterday, whose mum it was. She passed away very recently, which I was very sad. But she used to always go on about my complexion. And I remember one time, I came back from Nigeria. My family had just gone to Nigeria, and I came back. I was at my friend's house, and I got cooked. I mean, my skin was the same color as my hair. I got like, literally, I got cooked. Yeah, I was like proper dark. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was very self-conscious about it. I was very self-conscious about it because, like, you know, the black jokes were flying back then. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're Blakey, man. Da, 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 da. And I was feeling really self-conscious. I stepped to my friend's house, and then his mom goes, ah, I'm not gonna say my own name. Like, oh my God, you're a real man now. Look at you. Look, you look good. You got nice, proper, like a real black man now. And the way she said, listen, I felt so gassed. Like, and you have to understand, man, them little seeds there, man. So having that kind of like to balance out was beautiful, man. So I really need that. I remember that I was yesterday. I think I was 12 or 13. But I'm telling you, hearing that really, that's what I felt good. You know what I mean? Just having someone just like really talk it up. So yeah, colorism is a real thing. And by the way, I have to always tell people there is a difference between colorism and racism. Being really dark skinned growing up when I was young and wanting to be a bit lighter is not the same as wanting to be white. In fact, it's not the same at all, because you'll get people who are really, really light skinned, like people who are like really pale, and it's kind of like that's also not seen as attractive in the black community. You have to understand that, okay? You get people who are light skinned, but they get people who are like really pale light skin, and that's also not attractive. So they want to be a bit darker. Do you know what I mean? So it's always like people have always got this kind of like hang up about complexion if they want to be, you know, it's only really like people who are kind of like light caramel skin. They're the ones who are kind of like sitting pretty and they don't really want to move. But everyone else is kind of like trying to maneuver this way and that way. And it's kind of like it's reflected across the world as well. So it's kind of a microcosm of the world. Has white supremacy played a part? Yes. But I also think that colorism predates white supremacy. I always think there's these tastes that have been within communities that are true and which are real. Anyway, I'm talking too much.
Even increased cancer risk.
Going around and selling those illegal products.
Officials began confiscating products, inspecting shops, and warning retailers. Basically telling the beauty industry, if your creams melt people's skin, you shouldn't be selling it. Which, when you think about it, it's fairly a reasonable policy.
I think what's important here as well is what you'll find is the lack of regulation in Africa is not accidental. Many of the largest organizations, so a lot of people think it's just rogue organizations and rogue companies and little backstreet sellers who'll be selling these products. And you'll be very surprised to hear that many of the very large pharmaceuticals, many of the very large cosmetic organizations will be some of the biggest perpetrators in these illicit industries. Wherever they can get away with it, wherever there's not regulation, they will sell products that are harmful to people, and they will do it with impunity. That's something that needs to be discussed more often, because I feel it's something that is ignored. Many of the companies will be the same ones. So those large pharmaceuticals are often perpetrators in these areas, and we see it in the food and drinks industry as well. So for instance, the fizzy drinks and the soft drinks that are sold in Nigeria, yeah, it's illegal to sell them. The compounds of and the sugar content and the use of coloring, etc., many of the ingredients in, a lot of people love like Nigerian Fanta, yeah. They can't sell Nigerian Fanta over here. It's bright orange and looks toxic. Okay, they don't sell it in the UK. A lot of people are, I like Nigerian Fanta taste. It's like this. It's just poison in a bottle. Literally, they literally can't sell it in the UK. It breaks every, you know, food and drinks convention there is, but it's deregulated, so they can get away with it, and they'll sell it, and they'll keep selling it until the government step in and they do something. So this is the thing. What a lot of people don't realize is they're getting product from the West. They're getting product from these large companies, and they're thinking it's safe. And it's kind of like, no, it's not safe. They're selling it here because it's deregulated. And by the way, it's the same with the vaccines as well. Just to make very, very clear, the compounds that they use and they inject into our children on the continent are not the same compounds as the ones they use in Western countries. People need to realize that. So when you're all pro jab, them jabbing up our kids to the helm, just be very aware of the fact that what they're giving to your children is not the same thing they're giving to their children. They're giving your children on the continent and in Caribbean, wherever, they're giving them something different. Okay, so you need to be aware of these things that take place on the continent. This kind of deregulation of literally all products, yeah, but in particular, you know, food and drinks and cosmetics products is a massive money spinner for these Western organizations. Okay, they'll sell you a product that just gets you addicted. Okay, that's their whole aim. The aim is to just get you addicted to the product, and they know they can do that with far more impunity on the African continent and in Asia to a lesser degree, but more on the African continent. So it's up to the African governments to really regulate their own industries and to make these things safer. Otherwise, our populations are just far more exposed than people think they are, you know.
But unregulated versions are easily available to buy illegally on the internet.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save